What's going on, y'all? It is Breaking the Colonel, and today's episode, I really want to talk about the fires in Los Angeles, right? This is something that I wanted a couple of days to pass to really get some of the information and just see, because not just about the fires that are devastating, and unfortunately, there are deaths from these fires, or at least deaths related to the fires themselves. I also wanted to see what would happen with price gouging, what would happen with the displaced families, what the protocol was, if it was being followed, if it had to change, if the fires would go more into LA, it's like downtown LA, like what would happen. So far we are starting to see some price gouging. Now, something to note is that in California, I believe when a state of emergency happens, the price the price increase can't go more than 10% if I'm not mistaken. I believe that's what it is. And you're still seeing people break that anyway, but that's illegal and they can get reported. So hopefully it will deter people from even trying, but if you do see stuff like that, it's going to be reported. So what's so weird about this particular situation is that there are some people saying that certain fires were man-made versus naturally made, because if you don't live in California or you don't live in the United States, you're here and you're listening to this episode, fires happen in California, if I'm not mistaken, every year. Like, if not every year, it seems like every year. Now, this particular situation that's happening right now is very, very messed up, and I don't think they've ever seen some devastation like this. This is devastating, bro. And you're seeing reports. You watch the news. You watch the clips online. You see how many people are getting displaced. You're seeing whole schools that have burnt down to the ground, and now their student body has to be absorbed by a different school in LA. And it's a weird place to be in right now, right? Because you have people who are staying behind and trying to protect their homes and maybe their neighbor homes, but at the same time, you have firefighters there as well from all over the place. I think some firefighters in Mexico have come up and to try to help and contain a fire, and I think Canada has sent some planes to do some water drops or release drop supplies and stuff like that. So you have North America coming together to try to fight this, because at the end of the day, regardless of what happens to these fires, if the fires are not contained, not only is obviously LA going to be burned down, but also it can spread to the rest of California. And what's north of California, there's all Oregon, there's other states, then there's obviously Canada, and below California obviously have Mexico. So it doesn't do Mexico or Canada any good to not help contain these fires, especially how vicious they are. And there's massive winds coming that could drastically change what's about to happen. So I also wanted to wait for that, but that's some of the news I heard right before I started recording this episode, and I was like, I still want to talk about it because I haven't talked about it yet. So it's estimated that there's about $30 billion worth of damage, right? Which is insane. And there's a whole situation about the insurance situation, right? Because the insurance company had to pull out of this area because the rates weren't approved. And so there's that situation going on. There's situations where there is no water coming from certain fire hydrants. So, not police, firefighters and community and private firefighters. I didn't even know there was a private firefighter force, but apparently there is private firefighters, which doesn't surprise me in America. So they can't get any water from hydrants, and they're asking the mayor, and then they're asking Gavin Newsom, like they're asking all the leaders of Cali and LA, like, yo, what is going on? How could this happen? How are all these things in place to fight fires and half of them are not working? Right? So you have people in their homes staying behind and using their fire hose to kind of try to combat fires and do all these things. And again, it's a really tragic situation because this is, I'm someone who believes in global warming, right? Temperatures have risen. Places get that already dry have gotten drier, and what problem with that is that when fires like this happen, they're really hard to contain and they grow even stronger because of how dry the conditions, and the fact that some people don't believe in global warming what happens is, especially when they're in the leadership position, is that they don't have proper protocols or proper things in place to help combat natural disasters like this, right? There's so many. California has earthquake problems, they have wildfire problems, so it's like there needs to be stuff in place. And what does the aftermath look like after these fires? It's it's unclear, right? Because we're already seeing in this situation rental properties just disappearing off the market because so many people are displaced and need a place to stay. A lot of people have lost their homes. I think, oh, I just saw a number, like maybe 12,000 property damage, not dollars of property damage, but like 12,000 properties have been damaged like significantly. And there's people who, because of the how toxic it is and the air quality, there's people whose homes, even though it's still standing, may never be able to really use it again properly. I mean, there's so much structural damage, and there's so many situations that happen when there's a massive fire and all that, all those particles are in your house now. It's a whole thing. So there's, and that by itself could cost more and more, and not everyone can afford that much of property fixing, right? For the damages in the property. So you have rental properties going out. You have landlords increasing rent because they know there's obviously a huge demand. So they're trying to rake in as much money as possible, and it's really tragic to see what's happening. But it's not going to just stop now, right? Because as soon as that state of emergency is lifted, whenever that happens, there's still going to be people who are massive amounts of people who are going to be completely displaced and going to need a place to stay. And there's going to be people who are going to build up properties that were burned down, or people who have properties that were not affected by the fire. They're going to either want to move out of LA now because they're like, no, screw it. This place is getting expensive. It's not worth it. We still want money, so let's just do what we gotta do. Let's rent it out. And there's going to be people who, there's going to be all kinds of renting, all kinds of buying of houses, and there's going to be a huge move of soon. And so what's going to happen with that is that you're going to see people increase rent. You're going to see the mortgage skyrocket. And what's even worse is that you're going to see a huge increase in the insurance, the money it costs to insure houses, the various insurances, bro. Like so for people who do not own homes, there's so much costs. I think you can call these overhead costs that come into owning a property or either renting a property, but your landlord has to deal with that. But like owning a property, right? There's so much overhead. Like there's so many various insurances you need, and then if you live in a place that has HOA, you have to pay for the HOA fees. You have to do this, and you have to do so many different things, right? When something breaks in your house, you have to fix it. It's not your landlord's job. You rent, like you're renting, your landlord fixes it. Owning, you got to find a way to fix it. And then there's roofs. I know that for a place that has a lot of natural disasters, there's so many different insurances for that. I don't live in a place that has natural disasters like that, so I don't have to worry about those kind of insurances, but I know other places have to be insured for those specific situations, right? And for people who lost a lot of their insurance because their insurance got pulled, and now this happens, it's like, okay, now that that's gone, and this disaster is definitely the fires are going to happen again. Unfortunately, it's going to happen again. Hopefully not to this level, but it's going to happen again. So now insurance companies are going to be like, okay, well, we can't afford, because of $30 billion of insured damage. There's no way, no insurance, like there's no way they can afford. So they're going to have to ask so much. The policy is going to drastically change, and they're going to be asking for a ridiculous amount of money, right? It's already expensive to live in California. It's going to cause a panic, and the insurance companies are going to start gouging a lot of people. And you need insurance because, I mean, look what happens when you don't have insurance, right? Especially for a natural disaster that happens quite a bit, you're definitely going to need insurance. So that's going to be interesting, and I don't mean that in a good way, but it's going to be interesting to see what's going to come of this, right? Because I guarantee you, I guarantee you, they're going to increase the money for insurance because there's no way insurance, and not just house insurance. There's gonna be people who are like HOA fees are gonna skyrocket. There's gonna be people who there's the car insurance can also skyrocket because I'm sure a lot of people's cars got damaged in this, and that's just a external threat that car company or like insurance companies are gonna be like, oh well, hold on a second. This particular spot is hazardous, and this and this and this can happen. So we're gonna have to tack on X amount of money, maybe $100, $200, $300 more to make sure your car is insured, just in case of fire-related damages or whatever. Like, there's so many different ways that this can really negatively impact. So it's not even just about. This is really unfortunate for the citizens of Los Angeles. It's not just about right now, right? It's not just about what's happening right now. It's also about what's going to happen after. I know for them and people who are living this right now, they can't afford to worry about what's happening next. They have to worry about what's happening right now and just survive and make sure their families are taken care of right now. A lot of people are going to have to move out of Los Angeles. It's too expensive. And if your property, unfortunately, is like gone, they're going, I really feel for them because I don't know. There's no answer. Like, there's no perfect answer. It's very expensive to move. It really is. And obviously, I know what it's like to grow up somewhere, build your life, build property, own your property finally, and then that happens to it. So I don't know. I do hope that other counties or other places in Cali, or not even just Cali, but other states, I hope they open their arms to people who are displaced by these fires and give them some type of package where they can move. Like, there need, especially California. Like, I know the damage is like 30 billion, whatever the price is, but like the whole point of all those taxes that people in California, but especially Los Angeles, have to pay, it comes for situations like this where your people are displaced and they have nowhere to go. They don't have food, they don't have water, they don't have access to showers, they don't have like all this stuff. And now after this all said and done, they don't have a home. They need to go somewhere. And I mean, you have to. This is especially after this, and this is another thing that's going to happen in the aftermath is how much of this is going to lay at the feet of the government, the California government, especially the office of Los Angeles, because if they're held liable in any shape, way, or form, or especially how much I think they're liable, it's going to cost them, and a lot of people are going to be very pissed off. And I mean, when you have a situation like this, you have the World Cup coming, you have the Olympics coming, and I think they have one more event that's supposed to be there. And now, and I think a Super Bowl. I think they're supposed to have the Super Bowl again. So, not this Super Bowl, but like another Super Bowl. So it's like, what, like, I wonder how much of like FIFA and the NFL and some of these people are like, listen, if this is going to be an occurrence and like you have all this damage and like you have other stuff to worry about, should we still host this here? Now, granted, a lot of that money that's going to come from those three big like worldwide events, I'm assuming, I'm no economist, but I'm assuming is all that money, that's a lot of money that can come in. Like, people are going to be traveling all over the world for the World Cup. People are going to be traveling all over the country for the Super Bowl. People are going to be traveling all over the world for the Olympics in 2028. So it's like, that's a lot of money that can come in and help mitigate some of the damages costs that's going to come into helping relocate people, helping rebuild schools, because schools are public, or at least the schools that burn, I believe, are all public. So like the government has to take care of that. So there's so much going into that I'm very curious of, like, if they lose a lot of these events, that's a lot of money that LA was counting on that they're not going to get anymore. So I'd be very interested to see what's happening with that and how much of that money that's going to come in they're going to count towards because it's going to be a couple of years to rebuild. This is not something that's going to happen just overnight. This is going to take years to rebuild, and hopefully no other fires of drasticness come and slow the rebuild process down. So it's going to take a combination of some rich people wanting to give, some organizations wanting to donate, a lot of togetherness with the different governments, levels of governments and also foreign governments too. But at the same time, as I'm recording this Friday, President Trump comes into office, right? His inauguration. So he's also going to be a wild card because how much is he going to want to give in federal aid to this? Like, how much does he want to give? How much is he going to have to? Is he willing to communicate with other countries such as Canada and Mexico, who he's trying to put ridiculous tariffs on? How much is he willing? Like, there's so much wild factors to this particular situation that is pretty scary. I can only imagine that's really scary for the people of Los Angeles. So and I don't mean this to be like a fear mongering thing. These are just real things that the people of Los Angeles have to deal with. But I know Los Angeles is tough. I know they're strong, and I know a lot of people in this country have a lot of family that lives in Los Angeles. I know a lot of people have business and have interests in Los Angeles, so it does them no good to not help Los Angeles. And I know that sounds selfish, but that just means more help and more money will be poured into Los Angeles than not. I know a lot of people have GoFundMe's that are available that have been impacted by the fires, that can go and hopefully get their studios back. I know a lot of people lost all kinds of studios, lost all kinds of, not just their homes, but their businesses. Their jobs are in that area. Even though they don't live there, their jobs are there, so they lost their jobs. It's such a unprecedented thing for Los Angeles that the recovery will take a long time, but I do believe in the recovery happening. I really do. But don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I will continue researching and staying up to date about these fires. Hopefully, these winds do not do what I think they're going to do to these fires, and hopefully these fires can come under contain so that we can start the recovery process and start the aftermath process of what's to come. All right. Y'all stay safe here in LA. Our thoughts are with you. And y'all be easy, man. Peace.